in verse number 15. And God said unto Abraham, as for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but you call her princess. That's what you do. That's going to be her name. And I will bless her and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Eve was the mother of all living, but Sarah, the princess, that she would actually bring nations and people and kings, and one king and one Lord would come through their lineage. And see, the timing has to be impeccable. It has to be down to the moment, because Christ is going to come into the world through Abraham's seed. He is the promised seed. And what is important, that when the Lord Jesus Christ comes into the world, that he comes into the world on their land. Now, God's people, I tell you, we can be something else. The Lord will tell us what to do. He told them to go and to drive out the inhabitants of the land. Someone has said that the Lord gave them 300,000 square miles. They decided, well, 30,000 square miles is enough. And then they got comfortable. Then they got lax. And then they found themselves out of the will of God. Out of the will of God. Look at, if you would, verse 17. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed. Abraham was the first one to laugh at what the Lord was saying. He's 99 years old. This was funny to him. And said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? Ha, 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 ha. And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear? I guess Abraham figured he had this whole man-woman thing figured out. He had biology down. No, he didn't. Like I said, and he said again, they were too young. They were too young because, you want to know something? I'll say this now. And let the cat out of the bag. They were too young because, you know something? They could back then take the credit for something that God was doing. The Lord is going, he's going to remove all doubt. And Abraham said unto God, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. We have Ishmael. And God said, Sarah, thy wife, remember what I said? Sarah's purpose is tied, linked to her husband. Her husband's purpose is linked to his wife. You've heard me say this, and you've heard me say it over the years. No, a woman cannot follow a parked car. If he ain't going nowhere, she will be barren in the land of her nativity. She will be barren amongst her own kin people. She will be barren near her father's house. The Lord cleans this up quickly. He said, Sarah, thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed. I'm done talking about this. This is divine punctuation indeed. And thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. I'm running this, Abraham. I'm the one who's in charge of this. This plan is bigger than you. It's bigger than your wife. It's bigger than where you are. It's about my son, the Lord Jesus Christ, who's going to come into the world. Listen, let me say, Abraham and Sarah, yes, they're going to come in, and God called him a Hebrew. He gave him a name. Abraham wasn't born a Hebrew. His obedience to the Lord gave him a name. He called him Hebrew. This is key. He's going to take care of Ishmael in verse 20. But my covenant in 21, will I establish with Isaac. This is going to be Sarah's son. No, she not going to receive it through the law and the codes of the land. She's going to bring forth this son out of her own womb. Sarai was barren in her womb, but Sarah is pregnant with possibilities. Why? Because she had the promises of the Lord. Listen to this. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. It's a set time. It's a setup and it's a set time. The Lord is not on Abram and Sarai's calendar. He's not on their clock. He's not on Abraham's and Sarah's calendar and on their clock. He's the one who's running this. And like I said, this has to go to perfection. Because the entrance of his son has to be exact. It has to be precise. And he's not going to let two impatient people like Abram and Sarai, or Abraham and Sarah, or Dennis, or whoever, cause him to speed up. Or the Lord, well, I better get in a hurry because, Dennis, he's getting impatient right now. You know something? The Lord knows how to handle you and me in our impatience. You know what he does? Wait. You're going to have to wait. Because what it is, it's a set time. It's a set time. Abram is 99 years old. Sarah, 89. Chapter 18. And the Lord appeared unto him, that is Abram, and I should say Abraham, in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. Abram, he's just sitting in his tent door. He's just sitting there, probably catching the breeze. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and he bowed himself toward the ground, and he did what anyone would do. He was all about hospitality. He's preparing a meal for them. And then when we get down to verse number 9, one of these men is the Lord himself, the pre-incarnate Christ. And they said unto him, where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah, thy wife, shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age. And it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. This is all over with her. We in land, but ain't nothing happening. We finished. This is over with. Done. We're going to just continue to just live out the rest of our life here in a place we ain't so sure even why we here. Listen at this. Therefore, Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I am become old, shall I have pleasure? My Lord being old also? And I love that she said that, because the Lord did put pleasure in that, what I call that holy of holy union between husband and wife, where they go into the inner chamber and they experience pleasure, but it was always for procreation. It was always to bring children into the world, not just for pleasure alone. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to say it quickly. We need to ask the Lord to forgive us for planning our families as to how many children we're going to have. Most of us on the other end, we are against abortion. We're against, all of that, and rightfully so. But we need to ask the Lord to forgive us when he blessed Adam and Eve to be fruitful and to multiply and to replenish the earth, which means to fill the earth. Who are we to say to the Lord that we will exercise our free will and indulge in the pleasure, but we're going to tell you how many children we're going to have? That's part of what's going on during this season, and I don't hear no one talking about it. We're talking about everything. We're talking about getting back to normal. There's not going to be no normal. We've got some stuff we need to take before the Lord and ask him to forgive us for. Because Sarah realized that with bringing children into the world, pleasure goes with that. It's not just pleasure for pleasure. It's pleasure because he blessed them and he put an incentive in there to bring children. The Lord wants the earth filled with children, men and women that will get an opportunity to be born again and to be in the story of Jesus Christ in the final analysis. And we're going to tell him how many children we're going to have. He's not pleased with it. And we need to ask him to forgive us. And if anyone is preventing that from happening, you need to go before God. You and your husband. You need to go before God. And if you're not married, you don't need to be having any pleasure like that anyhow. Someone needs to speak up and say this.